This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is a workshop for the Board of Commissioners for July 27, 2021. We're going to call it 10:01 hours. We're having a little technical difficulty. We're still waiting for one commissioner to join us by our hybrid version of this meeting, which would be electronically through the system. We'll see if she is able to connect here shortly, either by video conference or the good old-fashioned cellular telephone, as we normally would do this prior to our pandemic life. So with that, I mean, we'll go ahead and just kind of call it to order together. Yeah. Myself, Commissioner Lorenzen, Commissioner Koshi's here. We have the general manager, assistant general manager, and we have our support services folks in the background, making sure this all works. They're lucky enough they don't have to be on camera this fine morning, but the agenda only has a few things on. Again, these are agenda items that we are going to discuss. No decisions are made in a workshop. I don't anticipate an executive session today, and then we'll conclude as soon as everything's done. But for the time being, we are just waiting for one other commissioner to join us, and then we'll get right into this fancy little meeting that we put together. So it is an opportunity for all of us to kind of talk and discuss a couple things and hear back from the staff. So that's why we do a workshop here and there. So with that, it's just going to kind of be quiet for a few minutes as we just wait for the other board member to come in, and we'll go from there. So appreciate everybody's patience.
Do you need to talk about it? I don't know yet. Can she get in and not hear us? Her computer did an automatic update, so then she was trying on her phone, and we shall see.
Technology, you know, if worse comes to worse, we can get the hockey puck out and have her dial in. So
I'm gonna try from my phone real quick since I'm not.
Yep.
You can just grab me the hockey puck. She says she still can't get in, so I'll try calling.
That little hockey puck was probably one of the best investments we ever made.
Thank you, Kevin.
That's it. I think I called in from Kansas one time on a road trip through the hockey puck.
Kansas is a state you can see on the kitchen chair.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I think we were.
I had a customer when I was at the startup, and he ran a little telephone company in rural Kansas. The town's name was Rural. And I said, Shane, I have to come out there and see your operation time. He goes, you don't want to do that. There's nothing there to see. He goes, make an excuse for me to come see you up in Seattle. Because that'd be way better.
Yeah.
I said, all right.
Yeah, it's pretty flat, nothing but fields and stuff, but you can make good time going across the state. So yeah, it is. For like the first 10 minutes, then you're bored. So that's where you want a Tesla, where you can just autopilot and let it do the work.
But then I'm eating every 2 to 3 hours when I recharge. It's pretty good.
You have to stop that long.
How long does it take if you get a rapid charger? How many rapid chargers are in Kansas? I'm gonna ask Siri.
Will now be recorded.
What are you doing? Having trouble connecting to the hockey.
Your phone.
I just wanted to see if we could get in. And
You got in. I mean, I saw something come up on the screen, so that theory has been validated.
Want me to try?
Yeah, I'm trying. It's just unique and more.
So it thinks it's doing something. I have Jonathan's Galaxy S10e.
Oh. I'll turn my hotspot off. Yeah, there.
I don't see the blue light ring, the ring going.
Yeah, use my tech skills. I'm gonna-
Turn it off.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly, okay.
Getting ready for this meeting to be longer than the meeting.
Yeah, sometimes that's how it is. The drive here is.
No bueno.
Yeah, okay, we're just gonna give her speakerphone and, oh, it's cool.
Did you push the Bluetooth button on the top?
Yes.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's just having
Oh,
issues.
looks like she got in.
Yay.
Perfect. Hang up on her.
You guys can thank me later for fixing it.
All right.
I see it.
Hi.
Good morning.
I figured it out.
Excellent. Okay. Well, good morning. We are back in the session. Well, we never really left. I mean, we had a slight technical difficulties, but Commissioner Stevenson has joined us this morning. So we've already called to order. We've gone over some of the agenda items, but the first thing on the agenda item would be rental policy, which was attached to the packet if you received it electronically, or in our case, it also is in front of us on the desk, but I will turn that over for discussion to staff.
So this is a project that had been started, Melanie and Tanya had worked on it previously, and it took what the fire station was using for their rental agreement for their conference room that they have over there, and tried to adapt it to possibly renting out this boardroom area for, you know, things like Lions Club to come in and use it, or things like that for the community. So this is a draft trying to adapt it towards what we might need, and I was looking for commissioner feedback on, obviously, number one, do we want to even have a rental type of agreement policy? What type of rates do you think are reasonable? The ones in here are what we copied from the fire station over there off of Chapel Hill House for their room. Those sort of questions. So open discussion on what we want, and then the idea is that we would bring it back with a resolution at a future board meeting.
Well, I guess prospectively, I think that it would be something that'd be good to have, because I know that the fire district being part of the commission a long time ago, we had set something up because we had the big conference room down there off of South Lake Stevens Road that was quite popular. There just are very few and far in between venues anymore as far as having a place for not only nonprofit, because you have nonprofits in the context of like service clubs, whether it's Lions, Rotary, Kiwanians, that need sometimes space to host a board meeting. And they're very few and far between now, with a lot of, the rooms being taken up. I know when the conference center was and the facility sold to the city, it pretty much took away from a giant conference room there. The only other, the fire district had a smaller room, a little bit smaller, I think, than this, that they actually didn't charge nonprofits for them to utilize it, because it's just kind of, the basis at one time was they're taxpayers within the community already, they're paying for a room. The room isn't big enough to host anything more than maybe a small, board meeting of maybe a nonprofit, or I should say more of a service club. The school district doesn't even really have facilities as much anymore, other than their administrative. They do have that, but that they charge because of custodial work that they have to do and everything there. I think it's something good there, because we really have limited. I mean, the city used to have the old community hall downtown. That kind of went away when the mill was the replacement. But I don't know. I mean, their rental is because it's a larger facility now, so they do it a little different. I think that it should be an option we should take a look at. Looking at some of the rates, I mean, like, we don't charge for government. Inside, we do charge outside, obviously, because those wouldn't be taxpayers. I think nonprofits and personal, I think what we might look at to a certain degree is there are some nonprofits, because you're going to get HOA boards that sometimes need a small facility. I used to see them over at Hagen's quite a bit, but even that's changed with the pandemic, because right now they don't open that thing, or they close it earlier, so there isn't a meeting room. I think that looking at some of those, if we break it down, how do we take nonprofits in a service club related type situation, where most of those nonprofits in this, at least in the city, they don't make enough money to rub 2 nickels, or most of their money goes directly back into the community because they get scholarships or whatever they're doing something, versus a nonprofit per se HOA, where it really is beneficial more to the HOA. But a lot of those HOAs don't make a lot of money, because most of them are paid to fees to the company that is managing it. And most of the time, if an HOA's meeting was going to be set up, it was probably through the management company anyhow, and that's a for-profit company. So I don't know what our happy medium will be. I mean, I look at like our outside the area, what you guys have for, $30 for non-government or government outside the city, and then nonprofit personal outside 40 and profit 50. I don't have a problem if you're not a taxpayer or you're not within, I mean, we have to take a look at it. We do have to limit it to the size too. I mean, this room isn't that big. I think what we had for a occupancy limit here is.
So prior to the remodel, where we gained some extra space, the occupancy was 50. So on the front page, I just put occupancy, max occupancy was 50.
Yeah.
What's our, from a general philosophy standpoint, we have facilities to share the facilities, there are ratepayer facilities that helps the community. I like that. What's our cost to provide? Because I assume that it's a lot of the request would be 7 o'clock on a Wednesday or whatever. So that would mean we have someone that needs to kind of be present and hang out and lock up and make sure the screen doesn't wander off and those kind of things. So I guess part of it is what's our cost to provide that, and at least on the profit side of it, it probably the cost should reflect the cost to be able to serve the facility up. The nonprofit inside Lake Stevens, nonprofit and governmental, that's probably something different. And the profit and personal probably needs to cover the costs associated with being able to serve a facility. But from a philosophy standpoint, I like the idea of sharing.
And we can do a few things, like we have separate locks to the main door versus the door into the office area. So we can change the code and give them just a specific code for that evening, sort of idea. So we can limit the time that staff have to be actually on site present. The front door being locked, somebody would have to come back to lock the door.
Okay.
And things like that. So there is a staff.
Yeah. So as long as whatever we charge covers that staff component, at least at a cost, yeah, I'm fine with it. And I saw, liability insurance and, and so forth in here. Seems like all that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess there's the single responsible entity. I like that, however we phrase that, but whoever is running it, if I'm running it for the car club, let's say, and it's a nonprofit car club, whatever, and it's in the community. Okay, well, Kevin Koshi is signing to make sure the room is better than when you got it. Yeah. And Kevin Koshi, you're who we're coming back to if the room is not.
If the TV is missing, we might have a conversation.
Right, so it's the very clear accountability on who's stepping up for being responsible for it. Other than that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's something that, we look at, and like I said, make sure that they were provided as a district indemnity for insurance issues and things like that. I wonder if, I know that most of our doors, well, at least into this room and into there, are secure type. Is it a key or is it a hex head type of, You know, some of the push doors when you go outside, all it is just you turn the,
To go outside of that.
right. And I'm just wondering if, when we do that evening, if somebody is, that they're given the headset, and then not only that, they have to drop it into the, like our drop box or on the outside. You know, put it on something they don't walk away, like when we were in school and you had to use the restroom, you got a frying pan with the key to the restroom. So you knew that you didn't walk away, and even though those Allen keys are a dime a dozen at Harbor Freight, it's kind of a reminder that they have that it's on something big enough to identify that. Yeah, you're not gonna stuff that in your pocket and walk home. But yeah, something where we drop it through the door. And I don't even know if, like, our alarm system, even if it's not code, but some of them will have a key fob. That is where we could just have one key fob that is set up with the headset. Hit that to get it out. Everybody out the building hit the door lock, and then they have to drop it through the.
Currently, it's not alarmed
Okay.
with that type of setup,
Okay.
but it's
Right. I think it's just something to make it easy, because sometimes you're dealing with nonprofits and some of the service clubs that, like, I'm involved with. The average age of the member might be 70 plus, if not close to 80. And you want to make it as easy, because trying to give codes to somebody who's never had to deal with trying to set an alarm generally entails the police showing up because the building alarm went off while everybody's trying to reset it. So.
Okay, so 2.8 talks about guest groups that charge for their events would be referred to the Board of Commissioners for their approval. And I'm not totally convinced I understand why that difference in level of service that we might provide in there. Any thoughts on that idea? Do you want it all still to just be approved by general manager?
I think it can be administratively done. It doesn't need, I mean, because you already have in here that we're not hosting gun shows or having a drink fest. It's just not really set up or anything like that. But I would just think that, from my perspective, the staff that operates and manages it can make the determination.
Let the staff approve if it was a strip club for an evening or something.
A bachelor party or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, Commissioner Stevenson has any questions on this?
No, I didn't see if there was like a deposit or anything like that. I didn't see that in the paperwork.
Yeah, they pay up front, and then there's a fee for each time they try and change it.
Okay. I think the fees are really reasonable. I like that.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very helpful.
And I'm fine with doing the policy, and then you're paying it off and it's used, then you gear up. If it becomes a thing, we gear up on the alarm.
Yeah.
The different lock
Yeah.
setup that you can code it, so it's only, the code only works with certain hours, or, whatever. It could be that no one takes us up on that, or,
And that's okay too.
and that's
but now we have a
okay.
policy.
Right, exactly, and it's available for the community. I'm surprised the school districts don't open up. I mean, you have all these buildings that are vacant over half the time. Just as an observation, it
Yeah.
seems from a capital utilization standpoint, it seems like there's an opportunity to optimize, but
I can just say, I know from the Lions Club standpoint, a lot of the times when you're renting the facility from the school district, you have to have custodial services.
this makes sense. Back at office capture.
Right, and so it's a little more cost prohibitive,
Okay,
so just with the amount that they have to spend.
okay,
And so,
okay. So it's available, but there's some extra nuance.
yeah, there is. I don't know if the school district really charges if it's like a event that's Monday through Friday, when people would normally, when the school's kind of out. But I guess what I look at is, like, I know that the Rotarians and also like the chamber utilize the ESC, which is the Educational Service Center downtown. That's generally utilized during the week when staff's already there. So I think the cost is a lot more minimal because they're already utilizing
Yeah.
that. Where like when we would host at the middle school a crab feed or something like that, the cost was considerably different because it was held on a Saturday. We were open for 8 to 10 hours. The custodial staff had to be there.
I remember those crab feeds. It's been a while.
It has been. The crab was very expensive. And
I
it just,
bet it is now.
yeah, it just made it really tough when you look at profit, because you can only charge so much for a ticket, even though it's all you can eat. People are gonna pay $100 a ticket, so. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, I think staff knows they'll come back with something eventually to us, so thank you, everyone.
One down.
That's right. Next one up is the lien foreclosure policy.
All right, so I included in the packet for you the resolution that's in place right now that kind of governs what we're doing. Just to go over it, 1.1 kind of outlines that a lien warning notice goes out to all accounts that are 2 months past due. And then I included with you what that warning kind of looks like. It comes out on their bill. It'll say collection stage, lien warning, and then the message gets overwritten with this message. Our bills usually have a monthly something we're drawing attention to. But if they have a lien warning message, it gets overwritten with the language. There is language in the resolution that does not exactly match what we're currently doing on the bill. So we're looking at making sure we update so that what the resolution says actually matches what's going to go out on the bill. So we know we have to fix that part of it. The other thing that happens, so just for an idea of how many liens go out. So 2020, we averaged about 22.8 liens per month. 2021 so far is 23.1 liens that we're actually placing per month. Our largest year since we've been tracking was 2007, and we did about 160 a month. So we are significantly less than our highest year during the crash. Okay. But it's still some work in people getting those.
So I'm thinking about this. So if it's 20 a month, that is 240 a year, or does some of those overlap?
Sometimes the same person gets
He's going to come back multiple times. Okay.
So it's not necessarily the different account. Okay, so 1.2 talks about if an account's unpaid by the deadline, so the 2 months past due, we're going to record that lien. They don't get any additional notice on paper. It just happens automatically. So right now what we're doing is we're making courtesy phone calls or sending out an email to the customers and saying, county charges a fee to record the lien and then to release it. So we're charging them the $207 to do that. So we already know you haven't paid in now 3 months. So we're trying to help you out.
And not clip you again.
And not clip you again with the $207 if you'll just pay it down, get on a plan or something, we avoid doing that, which isn't quite what the resolution says. The resolution says it has to be paid in full by the 25th. And as long as they pay like 1 month, we don't record the lien right now. So that'll be one of the questions. What do we want to do with that? So this past legislative session, there was a bill that passed through. So starting July 25th, the reporting fee for liens now is only $36. So instead of the $207, we're talking $36 to place and release the lien. So the fee they're going to get is less than our staff time in order to make the call, make the emails and stuff like that. So that'll be another question we want to do that. Now there is a benefit to the customer in that when we print the list at the beginning of the month, there's probably 60 to 70 liens that are going to be placed. We go through all this work, customer service does, in order to try and avoid that for people. And we usually cut it down by about half. So good, but we also get the same customers who call back or are angry because I didn't have the email. I didn't see the email. I didn't get the call from you. So we're kind of in a no-win situation
Yeah.
at times. But it does help them out to get it, I think. 'Cause a lot of them aren't even opening it. Anyways, okay, so 1.3 then talks about the notice of intent to sue and foreclose.
Right, can I add something real quick?
Yes,
We just started the one-time courtesy when COVID started. So it has not been, when COVID happened and oh my gosh, we had all these, it hasn't been the whole time, just to clear that up. We kind of, we're more so worried that people aren't working and oh my gosh, what can we do?
Yeah, we adapted it on the fly.
Yes, yeah, just to give you a little heads up, it has not been always. Yeah.
Thank you, Terry. You're welcome. Okay, so 1.3, the notice of intent to sue and foreclose. And those are once they're 4 months past due. So they've already had the 2 months past due, then they got the lien on the 3rd month. Now they've got the 4 months.
No, they're 3 months past due, 4 months owing.
4 months owing, yeah, 3 months past due. So if they don't pay in full by the 25th, we say we could forward it to our attorney to foreclose. That letter is in your packet too. It's the notice of intent to sue and foreclose. Now, we know we need to make some updates to the letter itself. I'll say I've been working with our attorney, Michael Kistad, with Anderson Hunter as well, to update policy and make sure our letters are in line with everything, so all of our ducks are in a row. So there are updates we need to make to the letter, but not major.
How do we handle rentals, the difference between tenant that's paying and landlord that's paying?
So we try and make sure all accounts are going to the landlord because they're the property owner that's going to get it. And then we do duplicate billing for the renter. So the
Okay.
same bill goes to both, as long as, or property manager,
Okay.
as long as they requested it from us for that duplicate billing.
The notice of intent, for the most part, I don't believe goes to the renter. I think it's only set up for landlords. And I thought.
The property
I
owner
think
is
so.
probably
The
mainly.
property.
Unless we're getting a response, I think, and then we kind of send a blanket to everybody that we can.
The other thing we do then at the same time, we send out the urgent notice of pending foreclosure. And that urgent notice actually goes to the mortgage company, not to the landlord or property owner or whatever. And the whole point of that is we have a super lien. And so which means if the house sells, our stuff's gonna get paid, except for taxes, ours goes first. So even the mortgage company does not pay.
Yeah.
Just we go in front of them. So we actually, I'll come back to that, but it's profitable for us to do this urgent notice of pending foreclosure because we get more money paid off. And banks now know.
Yeah.
And they'll do it.
Yeah, I think when this was coming out, the banks have been pretty responsive because obviously they have a vested interest in this entire thing and they want to make sure that.
Yeah, the resolution doesn't cover this urgent notice of pending foreclosure at all. The advice that we've gotten from the attorney is we can leave it as is, the resolution, and continue doing it, allowing for that additional wiggle room in what we're doing, or we can write it in there as we will do this. So it kind of depends what we want to do.
The other part of the pending foreclosure letter, if we don't have a mortgage company, or we can't find one, or there isn't one because the homeowner has told us they own it outright, we will send it to the homeowner, and a lot of times the ones that are on the list that we're having issues with, it kind of goes unnoticed. So, but we definitely cannot find banks for everything, a big struggle. So we do send it to the homeowner as well, if we can't find a mortgage company.
And you usually just rummage through Snohomish County,
Everywhere.
assessor
MERS.
records. Yeah.
Yeah, anywhere we can look. Sometimes we'll, if we've had a contact, like maybe Chase Bank has called us before and paid, and we'll call the phone number or email and be like, you were the last mortgager we had on here. And she's like, yeah, we don't have it. Do you know who it went to? And they'll tell you. And you're like, oh, hallelujah. Not very often does that happen,
Yeah.
but that's when it's really helpful.
The customer service does do a lot of the
Yeah,
research.
digging.
Like,
Right.
it takes a lot of time to mortgage company in. So just an idea, like at the beginning of July, right? Pending foreclosure money owing was 88,619. Based on
I think
the
it was 90.
legwork. Without. it.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, yeah. That's a good one. I was like, dang, a lot more. That makes sense.
It was 94.8.
Yeah.
Anyways, by doing all of this month, Tara's done $31,335 back from banks.
Yeah, so that's fruitful effort.
It is a fruitful effort. It's a lot of work, but
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, well, and that's really shows, I mean, the lien charge where it used to be and what it is now, I'm sure not only the county probably feeling it because that's a considerable drop from what they could make off these things. But even if our staff time, I mean, our folks are here, that's what the ratepayers are paying for. And I think the monies that we're capturing, it takes the burden off everybody else in the long run, because as we know, when we're not able to capture those dollars, the other ratepayers are picking up the tab somewhere down the line, so.
so we're suggesting to leave the 207, not to be beholden to just the fee that the county charges, but to capture the total cost of being able to do that collection with staff time and have either leave the fee the same at the 207 or whatever it is.
So the 207 is just what it is currently. The new
The
one
law
would be the
requires
36.
36.
The law requires it. We are just passing that along. There's
Okay.
nothing that we get captured.
And I think at that point, and maybe the others can pipe in too, I would almost say just charge the $36 each time. I mean, that's,
That's what we do.
yeah, okay, without, we were trying to hold up on the 207, because that is a considerable jump for somebody. $36, I mean, that's not even a rate, that we're making. And so I think that we have to capture, especially when we start looking at the kind of time that the collection staff is working, finding, doing all the back channels, research. And so.
Okay. So the last time we actually did a foreclosure was 2011. So I have given you in your packet the list of those that are in pending foreclosure. And I'll just draw your attention maybe to the last one on that list. They owe $8,327. Wow. They haven't made a payment since 2018. So this is not a COVID related type of thing. This isn't on this list. If they call in and we have contact with them and can get them onto a payment plan, we do that. But for this whole list, there's only 3 accounts that are on a payment plan. And what we find is they typically fall off their payment plan as well. So that last account there hasn't paid since 2018. There's no known mortgage company. And it has not yet been referred to the attorney for foreclosure.
I think the other part of that, Mariah, too, is when you had looked at the law about how far we can go back.
Yes, we can only go back and collect 6 years. Statute of limitations is 6 years. So we are right up against it for some of these accounts that owe quite a bit of money.
Because it's November, his cutoff will be. Because his payment in 2018 was $150.
So we're not nowhere close.
Yes.
With it. It also has on that list when the lien was placed. So you can see they were already delinquent close to account for quite a while.
Okay.
How do you get delinquent on $24.35? You would think that, I mean.
Well, and the other thing is, so we tell them notice of intent to sue and foreclose, urgent notice, and then we've been letting it sit for a really long time and haven't pursued it. I will say one account I sent over earlier this month to the attorney based on a deceased homeowner so that we could try and get that
Mhm,
as a sale. The other thing the attorney would like us to build in, if we're gonna revise the resolution, is board approval before we send any accounts to the Sue and foreclose. So my suggestion would be on the consent agenda item B or something, where it says links placed, links
Yeah.
released, and just have it right there as well, forwarded for Sue and foreclosed.
Yeah,
Just to cover, and then they review them now. As we do.
Yeah, and I'm fine with it. It's that balance between having enough flexibility so that we aren't doing extra backflips administratively, right? But still having the accountability,
mhm.
you know. I mean, and maybe it looks like we need a policy that says, hey, if it's over 2 years and it's over 2,000, and it's over 2,000, you know, some dollar amount, some amount of time, we send it on.
And I think that's a great idea because the amount of attorney fees that we're gonna incur plus the time in order to get it through foreclosure, weigh with the
Yeah,
PR
right.
of what we're doing. If there was a dollar amount or
Right,
time amount, I think that would be ideal for policy.
I guess the question on some of these things that I'm looking at, there's some really small dollar amounts. They must obviously be paying their monthly.
So what happens is there are 3 of them that will pay their payment arrangement, and the little ones, like I know one of them has $420 or something like that left, because she's on a $250 payment arrangement each month, so she's
Okay.
nailed hers down. The little ones, what happens is they stay on this list until you pay to a 0 balance.
Okay.
Once you pay to a 0 balance, the lien comes off and you start the process all over. So some of them may have paid all the way down except for 24.
Okay.
He's on a payment arrangement, so next month
Okay.
he should be paid to 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're just looking and thinking, how did they not?
Is it a
know
principal thing? or
Yeah.
is it like,
Yeah,
ah, pay
well,
the
we
attorney?
do have a couple people that know the system and they're like, no, I'm not gonna pay it off completely because I don't want to get that lien fee again. So they won't get the lien again if the lien doesn't get released.
Okay.
So there are a couple
When they get
people that do
close-
know the
When they get
system.
that close, I'll write the check for the $20,
Yeah.
so it's paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing about the one that's at the very bottom and the one, the list that you don't have probably, or the list you have, excuse me, might not say unknown and stuff like that next to it. It does. Those ones, and some of them own it outright, and we ran into that Homestead Act.
Mhm.
So, which is why I think some of them have gone, and Michael can, and when he gets them, kind of gives you, all of you, the commissioners and the management, this is why we should or should not. Because if you have to pay out fair market value, which I believe is what he stated is the new law now, then for your 8,000, so if he can try to collect from them, I think he does, but to foreclose and have to pay out fair market value for maybe a house over here, you might not get, it might be worth less than, right, than you have to pay.
Yeah, you're taking on a bigger liability than you are.
Yeah.
You know, I get it, yeah.
Some of them had stayed on that for a long time because of that.
Yeah, the city of Snohomish is a great way to collect. They just shut off your water.
Yeah, we. would
So
love
no
that.
water shut-offs are happening. It's the governor's proclamation,
Right.
right? March, water shut-off.
I remember living in Snohomish looking at, oh, that's,
That's the way to do it.
that'll get your attention.
Yeah, they can shut your power off. We aren't afforded to say no.
Yeah.
And understand.
We'll have to block it up.
Mm.
They'll block it up themselves one way or the other.
So what are you looking for from us? Just,
So, I think I've gotten what I needed for 1.112. How we'll add it to the agenda.
that's a good
But
idea.
I do like your idea of setting it. When do I put that on the agenda if we want
Yeah.
to move
Yeah.
forward with these guys? So if you had the idea of once they're 2 months, or I'm sorry, 2 years,
And $2,000.
2 years and 2
2 and 2.
grand, or.
Yeah,
Oh, they would be way over 2. They'd be way over 2 by then.
And then look at-
because I mean,
Because you're
yeah,
at
Or we can,
581.
we'll figure out. what
Yeah, we can give you numbers.
Yeah.
The number is.
581.67 is 4.
80, well,
Oh,
80,
I'm sorry.
86 times 12 is around,
I
yeah,
see
so that's
what you
pretty
mean.
close.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And our lien fee is not 207 anymore, so that will.
And I guess it's also weighing it with all the other legal aspect we're going through. I mean, the thing is, you just gotta look at it as like, are we gonna spend $1 to save a dime or get a dime? It's not gonna,
Right.
Yeah, and you probably have to do a certain amount of it just to not be bluffing.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if there's that aspect to it, if I know I can gain, you know, and it's all, and, you know, as much as I hate to talk about this, it's reflected back on the ratepayers that pay.
Mhm.
Because if folks don't pay, the ratepayers that do pay are taking up a larger burden of that, will do a rate increase sooner, all those type of things. So the stance here, I think, needs to be fair and balanced, looking at, you know, this isn't, we want the money, it's, you're using the service and, you know, it's unfair to burden the rest of the community. And anybody, yeah, and if a community member had an issue with that stance, they're welcome to pay the delinquent bill directly. And that would solve it, so.
And there is help out there with help.
Oh, there's,
Sharing by sharing.
yeah.
Sharing and stuff, yeah.
But there's even a lot of monies that different governments, nonprofits have been distributed to help people in need. And then through the federal CARES Act.
Unprecedented.
Yes, and so,
Last round.
any questions there, Commissioner Stevenson?
Just one, what would we do if we set that timeline of 2 years and the amount of $2,000? What would happen with the ones that didn't meet that standard? What would we do with those accounts?
The same sort of thing that's happening right now. So they would just stay on the pending foreclosure list. We would still pursue trying to contact mortgage companies, still try and get them on a plan. We just would not force to and foreclose with the attorney.
Okay, I like that.
They just hang out in the pending zone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
That was
Okay.
great. Okay,
Moving on down, C, nutrient general permit. I didn't see anything attached to it, so it's that good of a discussion.
this one's going to be extra brief.
It's something we don't really get a whole lot of say in according to the Department of Ecology.
Exactly.
Thank you, man.
Yes. As you know, June 16th, they came out with the draft nutrient general permit. So I just wanted to have a little bit of a discussion. We are still working on it. We are working with GNO. I've had a couple meetings with ecology already on how it's going to affect us here. Not necessarily everybody, but what does it mean for us? It is not looking great for us, I will tell you. Based on the data they used to set our limit, which is 118,000 pounds per year for total inorganic nitrogen. 2 out of the last 5 years, we've exceeded that. This year, we're going to exceed it again. By the end of June, we were already almost 90,000 pounds for the year. And so we got half the year to go and not much room to get it. They've used data from 2016 through 2020, November 2020. 2016 to 2021, we've grown by about 2,500 ERUs. But it doesn't matter. You still have a 118, doesn't matter how many contributors you have, that's your total limit. Our plant textbook built ideal would be 8 to 10 milligrams per liter of total inorganic nitrogen. Now, we're not even hitting that. Right now, we're averaging about 18.7 milligrams per liter is what's going out in our effluent that would be measured for this stuff. 13.5 is what we really need to get in order to stay under our limit or hit our limit. So we're not there yet. We're going to need some upgrade in order to meet it, whether that's a side stream application or something. It's going to be a capital cost in order for us to meet what they're trying to get us to. By 2025, we have to have a plan in place that gets us to 3 milligrams per liter. and our plant
Is,
can't get there.
do they measure us on a total or do they measure us on per liter? And the reason why I asked the question is that just uncap all the I&I stuff we've done.
So they measure it on a total.
Yeah.
So the test.
All right, Brad.
We run up against the other bottleneck of hydraulic.
Downtown was draining.
Yeah.
Resize those pumps over
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah, so it's,
Okay, it's a total, so it doesn't matter on your volume, doesn't matter on your million gallons per day.
So do we anticipate that a lot of these districts that are going to be running into this issue are just hoping that the Tacoma lawsuit is going to be advantageous for them? And then it'll set a precedent statewide, because 4 years to get down to 3 milligrams, and we're currently at 18, and we have a state-of-the-art plant.
Wow.
That's
And
gonna
I
be
think-
pretty impressive to cut out 15.
What's the Brightwater gonna do?
great question.
Yeah.
I mean, because that was over budget by billion. It was billions to begin with. It's over budget by billions. And
So I guess the thing is, I mean, it would be nice to see what the capital infrastructure cost is going to be. If you're saying we couldn't currently get our plant as is down to 3 milligrams in 4 years or less than, coming up, I mean,
So we don't have to get there. So the 2025, we have to get an engineering report on how to get there and a plan for when it can be in.
oh, okay.
But in the next, so we have to have this new permit by March 31st of 22.
Okay.
We have in that permit cycle, which is 5 years, if we exceed our limit twice, or 2 times in a row, or 3 during the permit cycle, we have to have this plan in place by the end of the permit cycle.
so write it now.
So we have to basically write it now because we know
Right.
we're in no good shape. And they're asking for an official engineering report, all known and reasonable technologies that we can come up with, and then a financial analysis on what that impact the ratepayers would be, plus a social economical justice review to review
The demographics within our,
people, or yes, poverty limits in our area, and a rate structure that would address this. So we will work on that as we turn in our engineering report in 2025. But
well, it'll be an interesting one. I mean, originally when the plant was built, there was a 2025 upgrade depending on population growth within the area. And we knew that was going to be costly. I wouldn't think that it would be the same amount of cost just to do this, but it'll be an interesting one to see how that is gonna have.
Well, the challenge of that plant though is that's on a tight, reason why we did membrane plant is because we're in a tight footprint down there. And so to do other stuff is same constraints, right?
Yeah.
So,
it was the same constraints, and we had thrown around the idea of using that third basin, but then we limit our build out capacity. We have gone back to ecology along with many other districts and said, you're effectively putting a moratorium on our area, and how can we meet Growth Management Act
right.
in the same time? So yeah, we're working on that.
Well, and I think that's where we have to get the city on board to a certain degree to understand what's truly coming, because I don't think that may be on their radar since they aren't the service provider. But by 2033, they will become a first line, service provider. And so therefore, they need to understand what's coming before them and use their ability, along with a lot of the other cities, to lobby in Olympia what needs to be or how this can be brought out. 'Cause everything looks great on paper from ecology, trying to say we're environmentally friendly, we're gonna save the Salish Sea, the orcas are gonna swim in and out and have a great time eating the salmon.
And smiling.
Yes, but the reality is how many billions is it gonna cost the entire local region to meet a requirement that our current technology probably isn't even there? It's great if it was a one-on-one, but we have to service 12,000 people in in a plant that is like,
Very appropriate, yeah, I agree, very appropriate conversation for this. This is a perfect utility. I
yeah,
mean, this is 100% the type of thing we should grapple with together and have a close partnership in terms of messaging and all that. So
And there's a project of beneficial use that the city discussed with Mariah and I yesterday for the old treatment plant site. And we had a pretty long discussion about challenges of the proposed use of the old treatment plant site. And the general nutrient permit came up. So we spoke with the mayor, Gene and Eric about it. So we had and John Spencer. So we had a pretty good discussion yesterday regarding the nutrient permit. So now I believe it is on their radar, and I think
well, I would hope it'd be on their radar. I mean, we're doing the right thing by coming out and talking with them and bringing them a heads up as we're learning it. I mean, if we wanted to be petty, we could just, hey, it's your problem up to 2033, but that's not how we operate. I mean, it affects the entire community. And so I think that's important that they're given a heads up, because there's too many times it seems like the message somewhere gets lost and then everybody's pointing fingers at one another like nobody told us. And so, the sooner we can get in front of this thing and deal with it, because as much as we all are having consternation about following DOE's guidelines that were not even vetted through anybody that actually it affects, it's coming. We're not gonna, it just seems like that's the way sometimes our government works.
is the old treatment plant officially transferred?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the old treatment plant would have no conceivable value in solving this problem.
if there is potential.
Possibly,
Okay.
that was the point of the
It's
meeting.
either going to be a
Okay.
contributor to make things worse, or there's an opportunity to do some side treatment. It's just how we can create a sales pitch to ecology and the county. So
Is the pipes there, that the inlet, they're still in the ground and
there would need to be some minor rework, but yeah.
It could be a very cost-effective way of doing something if we're given the opportunity versus acquiring land next to a plant that is already taking up a majority
That
of
was
its
my next
footprint.
question.
Yeah.
Well, and then the other challenge is the plant was designed before the next upgrade to be able to serve a population of about 45,000. So we've got less capital revenue than anticipated, and there'll be less ratepayers to help pick up that tab. So the any capital contribution before we reach that 45,000 is going to be a big challenge and a big hit.
This was a question that I think somebody asked, or we spoke about at the WASWAN Section 3, I think, or maybe I did. Is this a push by the Department of Ecology to regionalize sewer systems like King County does, just to be able to get these small districts out of the way? I mean, because when you look at some of the costs, I mean, you come into Snohomish County where we don't have a regionalized system. You've got the Snohomish system, a Monroe system, a Lake Stevens system, Everett, Marysville. And maybe they just want to say, you know what, we're tired of dealing with all of this because it's adding up. We would prefer you guys somehow get your partnerships together, and whether you start regionalizing, I don't know.
Maybe, but I kind of feel like not. The smaller ones have been excluded from this permit cycle, so they aren't forced into it yet. So like Granite Falls doesn't have to abide by the new document. And the other thing they're doing is they've requested in there that we kind of start thinking about or doing smaller plants at dense residential areas. So we would have satellite plants to treat instead of moving it to one plant. So I kind of think I'm probably not in that.
I just know years ago when we were looking at the issue with the GMA, when I was on the board the first time, looking to Snohomish as a regionalization at one time, because Snohomish was having problems. So they still have, I think, some discharge issues. And we were looking at regionalizing, hey, could it be cost effective? Because the fight at the time was over the US 2 Highway 9, where Lake Stevens and Snohomish met up, who would get control, what was the
At
best.
least that's consistent.
Yeah, and so we looked at, I mean, I think we drove, I think at the time with Darwin, and then we looked at the area out on 83rd, the back behind Bickford's and all there to see what would be the easiest route if Snohomish was to, because everything is downhill from 204 for the most part when you're in that area. So, but it never gained any real traction. And I think everyone from Snohomish might have looked towards Everett, but that was cost prohibitive in the long run because Everett's going to be dealing with, same thing. I don't think they're going to expand the size of that lagoon to hopefully that more of the settlement occurs. So I don't know.
Want to be careful your jet skiing. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess the idea is I'll put together a presentation so we're ready for the utility committee.
Oh, absolutely.
And
That's
by
awesome.
that point, we'll have the information from GNO hopefully
Yep.
to help build that. Ecology extended the comment period through August 16th.
Yeah.
So depending on what we hear this week, at the meeting tomorrow with them, we can start compiling comments back to ecology. I will say our first comment period, there were, I don't remember, I think they said something like 47-ish different comments. Now they don't count the ones that are copy letters that come from both.
Right.
But there were significant changes between the preliminary draft and the draft. So, and with my talks with our permit writer, they seem open to the send-in comments. It's not totally finalized yet, but the bulk of it, I get the feeling is kind of set in stone, or they have from the governor's office the direction they need to go. So we'll start compiling our comments back to them, but I wouldn't anticipate much of a change.
Well, and I think you're right on. I mean, the thing is, it's coming from the top in the state, and DOE gets caught in the political aspect of it. But as long as they've got support at the top politically, they'll let the higher ups in the state deal with it. It'll be an interesting fight, I think, in the long run. Who knows? I mean, it may be forever. Some people self-appoint themselves like those things, but who knows? I don't know. I mean, we're gonna.
I think that's more than we're gonna solve.
Yeah, exactly. So, any questions, comments from you, Commissioner Stevenson? I know that you've been kind of quiet, and it's more.
No, I'm good. I'm just taking it all in. It's a lot of information. Just seems kind of unreasonable, their expectations and the requirements, but.
No, absolutely, I would agree. I'm okay with it if they actually funded it, but I don't think the state's gonna write a check. So it's gonna fall on the local folks to try to solve the issue. So I get it that, we're trying to protect the environment. I mean, that is something we all enjoy, but we gotta be reasonable in certain aspects because I don't think that people are understanding how big of a change this is gonna be in 2 strokes.
It's a $3 billion problem statewide.
Yeah.
Could that $3 billion make a bigger impact on the environment in another way? That's a fair question to ask, and it's probably not helpful.
Yeah, no, I get it. So, well, thank you. We probably actually talked about that more than anything.
That's the big one. I mean,
It's been creeping up, and I think we've seen it through the WASWA. We've heard it from the folks here that you guys have lived it firsthand, and it is now coming to the forefront. So I like the fact that we get it in front of the utility committee. I think we have to start memorializing some of the things we're doing, so it's not a surprise, to folks, because when it gets to the elected level, sometimes we change, and then it seems to start the process over, and the only constant needs to be the folks that do it every day and out. So you can remind us, hey, we're working on this. So I'd like to get their opinions and get moving on it because we have to figure out a way to solve it, not just kick the can down the road in 2025's here and we're all pulling our pockets out thinking we didn't plan for this. So, yeah. Cool. Anything else on that?
Not today.
Okay, well, yeah, it's probably a nightmare you wake up to every day. So there is no executive session as we normally sometimes put on that. We actually didn't have one at the last meeting. You'd be shocked there.
It had to be pretty quick.
Oh, I don't know, 18 minutes, maybe a little bit more. So I guess anything good in the order there, Commissioner Stevenson?
No, I'm good.
Hope you're feeling better.
Slowly but surely, hopefully.
Yeah, nothing worse than getting sick in the middle of summer. That'll really.
No. Yeah,
I
it's
try-
not off my feet for sure.
Yeah, so, okay, well, with that, I guess we could
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
second it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Take care. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate all of the information on this. And I'm sure we'll talk more soon.
I got some stuff to sign.
This conference will now be recorded.
What?
So
Click the button once many times. Yeah. you clicked
Sam's
it
not
more.
cleaning the Sour Patch Kids in my yard.
No.